project that I really want to talk about with y'all is actually being able to use Web2 auth methods to mint a PKP and sign using the PKP. So being able to abstract away creating a Web3 wallet, as well as abstract away needing to manage keys, needing to manage all these like seed phrases when just creating your first wallet. So actually, yeah, there one resource that we have is actually our Spark publication, where there's a mix of technical guides, there's a mix of more like higher level writing around what's possible with lit. And so I'm going to briefly go over different parts of how you would set up a Google OAuth, like set up Google OAuth with programmable key pairs to create a wallet here, and what that might look like for this hackathon, where you might, for especially that onboarding portion, like being able to onboard people easily or set a recovery method. Okay, I'm gonna go actually jump into this project overview and go over how the project is set up so that you can understand this example. So this project uses Google OAuth to authenticate a user, and on login, it mints a programmable key pair token for the user with their Google account as a valid authentication method. Some other ways of authenticating that we're working on are Discord, as well as potentially like email. And we're also at some point also going to add a password functionality. So you could be able to just create your own account and then associate that with a programmable key pair. And then so step 3 uses the PKP token to get an Ethereum address for the user, and then it generates a local session key for that user and stores it in local storage. And finally, it uses the last 2 steps, it uses the Lit's PKP session signing service, which is our Lit relay, to sign the session key. So that Lit relay is actually gas, and it's a payment relayer. So like gas is abstracted away, where that relayer will cover that gas for whatever fees are incurred, and then it'll write this information on chain and pay for that transaction. So you'll be able to, through this example, create a Web3 account, which is the PKP, minted PKP account, and then sign for a transaction and submit a transaction on chain without needing to also pay for anything that any user doesn't need to know about Web3 wallets, keys. They just need to know, like, these are the actions that I can take. Let's see. I'm trying to think of what would be good to show y'all. Because in this example, which is a bit different than what we did earlier, where we went to the faucet, we then manually minted our own. This example is for every person that comes in with the Google account, we're minting a PKP. So we're now automating the process of minting a PKP. And that's actually within our relayer, which I think with this article, it's a little too advanced for. But that's definitely something that we've open sourced. So if you want to check that out, and if you want to build out either your own relayer or build out ways to onboard people through Web 2 to Web 3, yeah, please look at our repo for that. And then I think this is the last project I'm going to kind of go over is actually the event listener with lit actions. So this is actually the automation portion where you can kick off a lit action or kick off that signing for a programmable key pair. Because right now, we have these conditionals where we're kind of, through these examples, we're kicking it off. Like someone through that earlier conditional signing example is saying, here are these parameters, please check it now. Or like even the last example with the Google OAuth, where someone is coming in and being like, oh, I want to OAuth through my Google account. Please kick off that process. But here with the event listener, which is still very early, um, being able to have different events that we're either setting on a time base, block base, or kind of other parameters on when it should run. Okay, I'm gonna connect my wallet. Great. So an example that I want to go over with you is actually this portfolio rebalancer example, where this will automate portfolio rebalancing based on, I think it was Matic and ETH. And with this wanting to, if either of them, the portfolio percentages dip below a certain set parameter, then automatically trade. And do this within the time period. I always forget what time period. I think and independently. Yeah, I'll have to check back on when we're doing the time parameter on this, but this is through an example like this. The main purpose is if you're wanting to kind of manage a portfolio in a certain way, but you don't want to necessarily be at your computer all the time to sign for all these transactions. The programmable key pair actually does that signing for you because you're saying, here are the conditions for these trades to go through. Programmable key pair, please sign for them. I already approved for that signing, and as long as those conditions are met, please continue doing that. And so that's one of the, I think, core magical properties around programmable key pairs is taking away needing to sign, like me myself needing to sign for everything, where I'm like, okay, I trust that I want the signer to do this exact thing and that it'll keep doing that until I tell it to stop. And so let's see, with the event listener here, going through that code, that execute.js, it's very short compared to the previous ones we've seen, where we're just looking at getting the code here, which is our get token price action code, which is uploaded within, you can actually upload your code within IPFS or have it within your own folder. There are many ways to like actually write lit actions code. And then this is actually the this code here is actually calling an API endpoint actually to get the different token balances to compare. And then you're executing that strategy. Okay, so I'm likely going to close out the workshop with actually the bounty that we're giving out, which is best use of lit actions and PKPs to automate downboarding or governance. So hopefully looking at a lot of these different examples of using programmable key pairs and lit actions. It's given you a lot of different ideas of how you might automate onboarding, either through making it as easy as possible to create a Web3 wallet, or there are different ways of governance where an example of that might be we have a grant project that's currently building out um, private on-chain private voting actually. So using programmable key pair and lit action to be able to have private voting that doesn't get revealed until maybe at the end of the vote or maybe never gets revealed so that members within the DAO can, yeah, vote in certain ways. And the acceptance criteria for that bounty, so it needs to utilize lit actions and programmable key pairs. That is the setting that conditional and using a programmable key pair. Unfortunately, we do not accept solely encryption or access control projects, so that is not covered under lit actions and PKPs. Um, and then in the ethos of making Web3 really usable and easy to use, like UI UX is a top priority. So really thinking of the end user here and thinking of how we can make Web3 is, yeah, simple to use, because I think a lot of times with all this key management, with a lot of very complicated things around signing, um, it can be quite scary for someone coming in, and it's still scary for me too, as someone who's been in this space for a long time. And then the last acceptance criteria is um, please write tests, um, and have a demo and some documentation of how it utilizes lit. We really love when people document their project well so that we can help um, just tell other people about it. We can help do a write up on it as well, where we're really like partners in bringing forward this project. And if you want more ideas on what to build, we have an RFPs, a request for proposals page, as well as a use cases page within our docs. So you can check both of those out just to get some ideas of what we're looking for on lit, as well as just to like think about different ideas that we've heard around the ecosystem that people are interested in seeing. Okay, thank you so much. And I guess if there are any questions, I'll take some questions now.
Yeah, no, we had one question from Walter, and he wanted to know if there are any examples of existing commercial integrations.
Examples of existing, I guess define what are commercial integrations.
Like I go to some DApp, third-party DApp, and it's using the protocol. I want to
Yeah,
see how people already are using it commercially.
yeah. So one way that we have a grant program using lit is actually doing atomic swaps using PKP's lit actions and doing these atomic swaps. I think, is this one cross chain? So they're generating PKP's lit actions for both parties, and then once both parties have traded their assets into a PKP, that's when they trade it with each other. So rather than having an escrow, or rather than having a middleman, both parties still have access to that their own programmable key pair. And then once there's a confirmation that they've both loaded in that asset or that trade in, they're able to do that swap. So that's one example. We have actually quite a bit, and I am working on a post right now of the projects that have come out of ETH Global too, where we have a bit of projects utilizing lit actions PKPs there. I think our best source of examples is actually through our grants program, where you can look at our GitHub repo, which is, I'll drop in the link there. and you can check out accepted grants as well as their linked repos of how they built with Lit. And most in the recent couple months have all been using Lit Actions PKPs.
Nice. I guess you answered his question. Let's see. Does anybody else have
No,
any
I'm
questions?
just busy Googling. So there was some announcement about partnership with SEI.
Yeah.
That was that an integration or?
Yeah, so that was an integration. I think would say I think that partnership is with just on the access control. So they've built in access control through Lit into their product.
Right, because it's clearly one can code a myriad different things, but I'm still trying to see what the most immediate uses are. So do tell me when so there's the smart contracts and the JavaScript library for them. At which point do I start hitting your servers?
Um, so do you want like an architecture of where Lit fits in within like certain projects?
Well, I mean, some things would be just direct calls to the smart contracts. For other stuff, I would actually be using your servers, right? Like for cross-chain stuff, all kinds of functionalities. So how do I understand which where I'm starting to depend uh, on your servers being up and available?
So, and by servers you mean the Lit nodes?
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I think that depends on the use cases. So with, let's say you want to do the Lit, like you want to write something like Google OAuthing and using a programmable key pair where you're tying in your OAuth account with a PKP, and you want to do like an action through that PKP where um let's say like you need to check the PKP. So when you OAuth through to a PKP, you're actually setting a PKP permission to say like, oh, this is signed through Google OAuth. Now create a signature for this based on that OAuth, because if someone's coming in from Google, they don't have an auth sig. They don't have another wallet to say, hey, I'm going to confirm that I own this through a wallet. They're going to say, oh, I have my OAuth account, and through my OAuth, I'll approve this signing. And so from there, like you'll need to check the lit nodes to confirm like, hey, this is someone that's within that network. And then another way you need to interact with the lit nodes is when you're running a lit action across those nodes where you need signing, like the signing capabilities where you're generating a proof through the lit actions and you're signing it through that programmable key pair. Does that answer your question?
Well, I'll read it some more because I mean, when I first looked uh, at the offering, it was all around basically, encrypting some on-chain content, but you folks clearly moved on quite a ways further on. So the further you move, the less I understand what I'm relying upon uh,
Mm.
to have that actually work.
I guess like what are you thinking of building? Like maybe having a use case would be helpful to explain to you like how lit would fit in.
Something basic, the typical profile, but was kind of conditioned access onto different fields. So the new thing would be the, conditional access. So I would, some people would see, just the name, and some people could also get to see, I don't know, whatever, email. So, I mean, I can do something straightforward and just have a key for each bit, encrypted information, but maybe something smarter can be done. But that's not exactly your use case. Yeah, I
Yeah.
gotta, go ahead.
I think with that example, like I see that still fitting squarely within access control and encryption, and it doesn't need to utilize the lit actions and PKPs.
Right. Yeah, that at some point I'll have to read about that atomic swap example. I never thought of atomic swaps like that. So now I'm interested.
Yeah, the Yacht Labs folks did a really great write-up with like diagrams and everything, so
Mhm.
it's like I think it's like really awesome and like pretty like they go through all the steps of like their thought process and logic around it.
Right. Mm. Great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to finally learning more about it. Uh,
Yeah.
I wish you guys created more than just one big beefy prize, uh, but because I'm not yet sure I'm ready to work up a whole end-to-end implementation. But anyway, I'll fiddle with it, see how far it goes.
Yeah, thanks for coming to this workshop. I think that's
Mhm.
good feedback that yeah, I can figure out with like the Aragon folks because we want people to also feel motivated to just like build with us. And so finding ways that people are motivated and like want to feel incentivized.
Right. Now, when you mentioned a reputation system, uh, what did you have in mind? Uh, On-chain kind of a many-to-many relationship that
Yeah,
one
that's
gets
what.
to
Mhm.
score individually?
I think that depends on how you want to build it. So one thing that's really awesome about lit actions and PKPs that I didn't really, I guess it was very implicit, but it wasn't very explicit is with that underlying multi-party computation aspect of lit, you can take in off-chain information and on-chain information. So let's say you have some verified credentials that are on-chain that you want to check, but then you have off-chain credentials like let's say it's important to me that someone has a social account like a LinkedIn or a Twitter, and I want to know their follower count. So that's part of the off-chain credential, and I want to tie it in. I'm like, okay, that's one portion of their reputation, and then their other portion might be a lens profile, or it might be the amount of on-chain transactions they've done. And so being able to construct a reputation around all these different parameters. And I think it's still very unique to a program or unique to a DAO, like what things that they find important to like understand about their members.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, once you describe it like that, it's awfully powerful,
Hmm.
almost like scary what you
Yeah,
can kind of like on-chain, if this, then that.
Yeah, exactly. And we do have some examples from past hackathons of people building something like a if this then that, but doing more automations around posting on Web3 social, but taking let's say like being able to kick off that automated posting on a Web3 social through setting a Google Calendar event. So like there's so many other things you can do with PKPs and lit actions with that the off chain to on chain power.
Well, thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Sean. I'll complain some more. Thank you for providing your email.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. If there are any questions, we have a few more minutes, so I'm more than happy to answer questions, or if people want more resources, I think like I can help figure out a lot of different resources. And I'm also really active or trying to be more active on the Discord, so let me know if once you're building and you need help.
Cool. Yeah. Did anyone have any other questions? Take that as a no. All right. And then so on the website, I see for resources, you've got the developer documents, the programmable key pairs, and the lit actions. Was there anything else that people should know?
Um, Yeah, I think that if I could also link in the slides here, I'm just actually gonna drop in the slides to the Zoom, but I also drop in the slides to the Discord channel as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, that sounds good. All right. Awesome. Thank you for taking the time to come in and explain more about that protocol. This has been really good.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for coming.